Welcome to another episode of the Career Talks podcast. I'm your host, as always, Orlando Haynes. And each and every week, I bring you new guests, expert guests, to help with actionable advice for your career and life. So super excited for tonight's episode, but make sure you subscribe. If you didn't know, it's actually free to subscribe. So go ahead and do that. Support the podcast so we can continue to grow it. Currently across 15 countries. I want to hit as many as possible by the end of this year. So let's do that by supporting the podcast and driving those numbers up. So for tonight's episode, if you've seen the flyer, we're taking business strategies and implementing into your personal journey to get more visibility. And I'm super excited for tonight's guest. I have a Fortune 500 brand strategist. She is the founder and CEO of the 21st Agency. Love that name. Looking forward to diving into this topic with Miss Brittany Ward. How are you?
Hello, Orlando. I like when you said expert. You really had my attention then. So let's see if I can live up to that title here. I'm really pumped to be on the show with you and just get down to some good conversations.
Absolutely. So thank you for saying yes. Obviously, you're busy, and it's a cool thing that we're both here locally in the Florida market. We haven't had a chance to meet yet, but share the platform with the mutual organization for PARW. I can't even pronounce all the acronyms that it has, all the letters.
PARWTC, which has been our client now for over 5 years, and how
awesome.
we originally got connected, and I dubbed it because I couldn't say it, Park, and it just sort of stuck. So yes, so much for the acronym. Now they are Park.
Awesome. Yep. Love those folks over there. Margaret, who leads that team. But let's dive into this. Share with folks more about your background, your business, and we'll jump right into it.
Yeah, absolutely. So background in business, I've been in the marketing and advertising world now for about 16 years, which ages me, but it is what it is. I worked with, out of the gate, some like really cool brands, still with an agency out of Orlando: Disney, SeaWorld, Aramark, Fox Sports. I was the junior account manager they were dragging into meetings to tell all of the Fox Sports commentators and anchors how to run their Twitter account when it just first launched, which was super fun at 22 years old. Fast forward, I had a stint on the brand side, working on a pretty wide variety of food and beverage brands. Burger King corporate out of Miami, Buffalo Wild Wings for a couple years, a concept called Nature's Table Cafe, World of Beer, also based locally in Tampa. And then 7 years ago, decided I'm working really, 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 really hard. I think maybe I should work really, really, really hard for myself. And started consulting, doing some freelancing. A marketing whisperer, which at the time is what I was calling myself, quickly became Whisperers. And we had to rebrand, which was the 21st Agency, which you noted in the beginning of the show here. And so that was 2 years ago, after rebranding based on kind of the 21st century modern approach. Also, conveniently, my birthday happens to be June 21st, awesome. Which is the longest day of the year, summer solstice, with the most light, representing a new birth, a rebrand, and a very bright future. So awesome. That is how we came to be. We are a fairly niche boutique, small but mighty organization. I call ourselves a creative agency, and we are experts in branding, social media, content creation, influencers, and paid social. We do a lot in consumer branding and direct-to-consumer lifestyle brands as well.
Oh, so I think that lifestyle brand, right, will speak to job seekers where they can use some of those tips. And correct me if I'm wrong. There's something in that mix in how you work with clients or folks with a personal brand, whether it be speakers, authors, etc. There's a magic to that, to getting more visible, exploding their brand, that your agency does. And so those are the tips I think they need to hear. I'm always of that mindset. How do we use corporate business strategies, to implement in our personal life to assist us in whatever endeavor. So definitely want to dive in that. So but let's stay on the business side for a second. When
Mhm.
you take on a client, what are the first things? Let's just say someone who's building a personal brand. What are some of the things you're looking at first as you're initially in those initial consultations? What is that walk through those conversations in the beginning?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great point. And, I actually like to describe our agency as a consulting agency with a marketing toolkit. And so every approach we take for an individual brand, a personal brand, or a business always starts with why, right? And how you define yourself, what makes you unique. Do you have a specific approach in how you're dealing with customers and clients, and really honing in on that positioning statement and how to articulate who you are and why you're doing what you're doing. I find that there's a really great quote, and I'm just going to butcher it for the sake of conversation here, but essentially, if you're not a brand and you can't articulate who you are, you're a product, and then you have to compete
Mm,
as the lowest cost. So if you want to be the cheapest in the room, sell on product. If you want to have a high value, really great approach to articulating who you are and why you do what you do, then there's a really nice way to formulate cost at a much more elevated level in space.
I love that. If you can't articulate your brand, you're a product. Wow. That's kind of a gut check. I like that though. That's kind of a
Yeah,
gut check for sure. So what would be, and you can use me as a test case.
sure.
Me growing my personal brand, leveraging LinkedIn, growing the podcast, etc.
Hmm.
What types of questions initially, because I'm in that space, that you would ask to quantify whether or not my why, am I doing this? What, does it make sense? Am I even, you know,
Yeah.
qualified to do it, etc.
Yeah, it's a great question. I feel like for you, and through the lens of, hosting a podcast and positioning yourself to have these really smart conversations with business people, it's almost a bench of credibility that you have built for yourself, and surrounding yourself with, I've watched obviously some of your podcasts, and knowing the type of conversations you have, the ability to ask really smart questions, I think, is probably one of your primary strengths, which, as a reflection kind of how we tackle, the consulting agencies, first with start with why. I think we kind of share a nice thread to our business, and really trying to understand first before making recommendations, or just selling. And I think sometimes that's where, business leaders can go wrong, is you have an agenda that, okay, I have 30 minutes and this is a Zoom call, so how do I get it all out, instead of, going slow to go fast, and asking those great
Mm,
questions up front, and allowing people to unveil their agenda, so you can walk in how the partnership, or what the value you bring to the equation, is, in a unique and personable way, so it doesn't feel like, especially now more than ever, AI or a sales script, or you're kind of potentially railroading what people have to say, because you've got to get through those bullet points, right? So I think you do such a nice job when you have folks on your show, and really have organic discussions around that. And it makes people trust you and like you more before ever even getting into, well, how can you help me?
I love that. Appreciate it. So with your secret sauce, do you look at following, storytelling? What's your message? What's your value proposition, and what they're bringing to the table? And I'm asking that too in a sense of a job seeker.
Hmm.
So what's that bridge that will connect, that they can then take these tools, practical tools that we'll get into, and how they can apply that, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
I think it does. And I mean, God bless any job seeker right now. Honestly, I feel like from an employer's perspective, I know what that is to have to sort through resumes and try and understand where talent meets soft skills and who's going to really bring the passion to the position, and what makes you unique as a job seeker, just as if you were a business, right, or a brand. I think that fortunately and unfortunately, information is at our fingertips now. So finding information about the company and the role and the position, and then trying to define specifically where the crossover of your talents and the role needs meet. And then being able to, in your own unique way, articulate that back to the company, right? I think that because it's so easy to apply to a job, people just go through and, sort of mass apply and forget that personal approach. I mean, I can remember applying to jobs and wanting to put a spoon in my eye, thinking about writing a cover letter. But it's true. I mean, that is really the first impression and the way to like jump to the curiosity and piquing the curiosity of a potential hiring manager or HR person in crafting a message that is specific and unique to that job and that role. Otherwise, I mean, you're just a sea of talent. And I speak, specifically to marketing, but there are a lot of skills that we can teach. And quite frankly, that change so quickly, you have to be able to teach them. But what you can't teach is someone who takes the time and effort to really go through and tell you why they want to work for your company, why they feel like that specific job is the right fit for them. Um, that really makes all the difference. And use examples, right? Like use real world examples. I've done this in my past, or I've seen your company do that in this campaign or this instance. And these are the reasons why I liked it. Everyone loves to talk about themselves, and that's no different in the business world. So if you can call back to a time where you feel like they did something really interesting,
Mm-hmm.
unique, provoking, um, I think that is a really nice way to at least call to the top of a stack of, a pile of resumes that people are sorting through, that you've taken the time to at least understand what they're doing and why.
How much is storytelling specifically involved with crafting someone's brand on that side?
It's everything. I mean, it really is everything. I think that fortunately, a lot of content now is available to people, right? And
Hmm.
and you see a brand name or you see a logo, but ultimately you want to understand, who am I buying for? I'm
Hmm.
sorry, who am I buying from, right? Who am I buying from? And if you can't tell your story, once again, you're just a product. And so I go straight to, where's the coupon? Where's the promo code? How can I get around, getting the cheapest possible version of this? Or what's the dupe? How do I get the cheapest next thing, instead of really gravitating towards, okay, I want to work with this company because, and I guarantee you, more times than not, it has nothing to do with the price, because you will save for an aspirational brand or trip or thing that you want, and ultimately work up towards having that relationship or that partnership, rather than just immediate to cost, lowest cost provider.
Hmm.
I just published something on LinkedIn a couple weeks ago. It was just a quote which says, if you think hiring a professional is expensive, try hiring an amateur. And that'll really show you. So storytelling is everything. It will help differentiate you from your competitors. It is a callback way to remain top of mind, right? Like for me, one of the reasons that when I talk about our agency, I point out, 21st century, but also it's my birthday and it's personal, and people tend to remember that. And so it kind of sticks, and they start to associate one with the other. And it's, thinking about, what is that unique point that you can articulate in conversations, either about your business, your brand, your job search. Pick one. It can be fun, it can be personal, it can be just interesting, a stat even. um, But I think that's a really nice way to help craft your story and why it's so important to do it.
What are some of the strategies? Is it more when you're talking about the business and building that brand? Is it, I want to say, is it social media? Is it getting great, headshots of your client? The whole marketing package. What would that marketing package look like again? So they look the part
Yeah.
and look more presentable. They don't look like the coupon version, right?
Hmm.
Even before they open their mouth, and if they fail to be able to sell their story. So at least initially, they're not looking like the coupon version. They're looking the best version of themselves. What are some of those things that can translate from the business world to the job seeker world?
Yeah, I think that's a really great point because, one of the buzzwords now, especially, is integrated marketing, right?
Mm,
And so what does that mean? It's sort of like the flywheel effect, or the, hub and spoke of the center. I'm a visual learner here, so I'm kind of processing these questions as logos. But in the center really is your message and who you are, and like what that uniqueness that makes you who you are is. That doesn't always mean, by the way, you have to be a luxury brand.
hmm
You can be a mid or affordable brand and still have unique selling propositions, same way that relates to a job seeker. An entry level person is just as valuable, and can be sometimes even more so, right, than an executive, which, sorry executives, but there's a place for all of us.
Yep.
So when you think about an integrated approach, it all starts with helping to define who you are. Okay. Out of that sort of spoken wheel analogy, there is social media, there is a website, there are blogs, there are business cards, printed brochures, banners, right? Like outdoor campaigns, CTV. Why, we could go round and round and round. Like, there are so many places in real estate to put your face and your brand now. But I think the golden ticket in this message is really about consistency.
Mm,
And if you show up on your social media and Facebook as a very professional, very defined, your headshots look a certain way, you're using all yellow, you have kind of a buzzword you're using over and over again, you should try and mimic and mirror that across the board: print, digital, in person, right? Like, it should be a reflection of who you are and your brand is. So no one is surprised when you show up in like a t-shirt and Jordans, right? Like, that's your brand.
yep.
And that's okay. It's okay to own that and be different, but be consistent so people learn to understand and to expect that. The way to convey that image is a more casual tone and approach when you're having discussions with people. There are lots of very popular brands. MailChimp is actually one that comes to mind.
hmm
You're an email service provider. They are diehards about customer service. Their email, but you go to their website and it is the same language, the same tone of voice. They're very casual, really funny. If you've ever hit like a 404 error message on their website,
hmm
it's something quirky or funny or interesting. But they manage Fortune 500, very reputable companies, email service providers, but they've decided this is who we are. We're going to stay true to the brand all the way through. And if you know them, that's what you expect from them. Their customer service agents, the same thing: approachable language, very friendly, professional, albeit problem solvers, but they have defined who they are in a really nice way and just continue to articulate that in every touch point.
Love that. Love that. Do you deal with clients that have imposter syndrome?
Oh gosh, we definitely do. It's funny. It's like, I've seen both ends of that spectrum, by the way. Um, we have certainly dealt with imposter syndrome clients. I think a lot of times, as it relates to kind of that personal brand, people feel like, this is a vast generalization, but from what my experience and what I've seen, you have to be an expert in the room to have an opinion. And I don't think that's true. I think for the same reason, an executive versus an entry level person can bring value. A good idea can come from anyone at the table.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think the sooner people really sit in that and know that, you don't have to have 25 years experience to be valuable and a contributor in an organization. In fact, marketing 101 is we have to understand that oftentimes, our product or our service is not for ourselves. And having unique opinions in the room to bounce those ideas and campaigns and, ideas through is so much more helpful than having copy paste of the same version of people in the room. And I think a lot of times, that imposter syndrome will start to sneak in if you feel like, well, I'm not an expert in this field. Alternatively, you could be of the consumer or of the client's mind. You have a third party impression that is imperative that you get as a sounding board. I mean, you can get so far in the weeds of your own brand and your own business and your own message that you lose track of it, right? Like we had a giggle the other day in the office. We went to someone's website, and because the words and the brand ran together, it became G-rated, X-rated real quick. So
What?
yeah. So, to say you don't need to be an engineer to read that URL and know
Yeah.
it's up here. I think that, imposter syndrome is real, but having just some levity in the situation and really trying to connect and form relationships and, give an opinion that is your own is super valuable. So I would just encourage people to not lose track of that.
That's funny. That's funny. So when you come across those types of clients or individuals, how are you coaching them through that? Because they may be like, I don't know if, like you said, I don't have 25 years. I don't have this massive following on social media. I'm not the Gary V of the world. Those type of folks. I'm just someone who's done X, who wants to produce this Y, so I can get it out to the masses. How are you coaching them through that mental block and that imposter syndrome to say, hey, you have what it takes to launch, and
Yeah.
I'm here to support you?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's kind of two ways for me to answer this question. I'll give you from my perspective first, which is I would much prefer to have that client than the alternative because they are open to new ideas and they're not trying to sort of do our job for us. We get to bring opinions and data and insights and lead the conversation, whereas, folks who have been doing it for a long time sometimes are fairly closed-minded about what could work, or we've done this already, so this can't work, and okay, well, have you thought about it this way? Or, how is the execution? And so digging a little bit becomes sometimes harder from, a customer or client's perspective and how they show up to their own business that way. I genuinely think it can be a positive for similar reasons, right? They're still curious, they're interested, they want to learn, there's a hunger. And I feel like, things are changing at lightning speed right now between, digital tactics and AI and work streams and how consumers are processing information and making buying decisions. So I honestly believe having a little bit of imposter syndrome will help you and guide you to more curiosity and really integrating more people's perspectives and more data to get to the right place. I think sometimes when we just, decide we're the experts and we have nothing more to learn here, it can be a really difficult situation. So I would say, embrace it and learn to leverage it as a strength.
So I'm gonna switch up and ask you this: from the employer side, you having your employer hat on, and as you're looking for folks to partner with your organization, your company, what are some things that you see missing from the job seeker that you're like, I wish I can coach them on doing this. They would look better, present better, or do X better. What were some of those things that coming directly from an employer like yourself?
Sure. Yeah. It is. It's, I mean, I have to be honest, it is difficult as an employer as it is for, a job seeker, because you have massive amounts of people applying. And typically, I don't get a cover letter or this is the reason we want to work with you. So I'm sorting through with kind of the same process of how do you weight hard technical skills against soft skills?
Mm,
And for me in our business and industry specifically, because things change so fast, some technical skills are needed, but more so, I look for people who are hungry and passionate and curious and want to jump in at any level, right? Like, I saw this thing on TikTok. Maybe we should try it. Or, I was at the store and I noticed this brand, which is a competitor to our client. And these were sort of the thoughts and brainstorming, right? But that is a skill that I think gets lost oftentimes. And I'm again sweeping generalities here, but because of so many virtual roles,
mm,
the water cooler
mm,
talk is lost. So when you're in a 30-minute meeting and you have agenda points, in our business, creativity is necessary. And sometimes that just comes out of, excuse my language, some bullshit conversation that happens after the meeting in the hallway. So I think having the opportunity, to find people that are passionate, curious, and want to bring those innovative ideas to the table outside of any technical skill right now is harder to discern.
mm.
Um, we have an office in person downtown Tampa. The majority of our staff sits in an open room, and we have conversations about clients and lunch and the TV shows we watched, and sometimes the ideas come out of the show we watched last night. So you just never know how to capture and bottle that. And unfortunately, I think, especially now in interviewing and sort of that lack of personal touch and a more
Mhm.
virtual world, it just gets lost a little bit. So it's harder to identify those people who will bring those soft skills.
So if you were coaching a job seeker, right, you took a whole day, your team got together at that table as you talked about shows, etc., your life, the bagel
Yeah.
you just had, whatever it was, and you said, okay, here's what I need you five job seekers to understand about making yourself more visible, more marketable, more personable, so employers like me would hire you. What would some of those initial actionable steps you would give those folks?
Bring solutions.
Mm,
Bring solutions. I sometimes, like any other person, I don't know what I need. You tell me. You see our agency and the work that we're doing, and reading the job description, and, well, have you thought about maybe trying this or doing that? And look, even if we don't need it or want it, it still shows me that you are a critical thinker who is proactive and is not going to sit around and wait for the next assignment. So bring ideas, bring solutions, even if they're stupid and they never actually happen. It shows me that you have the curiosity, and the passion to at least say it out loud, right? Which is just
mm.
kind of another thing, the confidence to sit in a room and be okay with, this may not be the right answer, but it's mine. And here's the reasons why I think it could work, right? Um, I think that sometimes, a job seeker wants to say all the right things. That's how you're,
Hmm.
right? Like, question answer, question answer, this is the right answer if someone asks you, and coaching. And I think authenticity more than ever is just needed, because I respect someone even if their answer isn't right, that they spoke their truth.
I like that. So when you say that, to me, what popped in my head was, for them to be confident, even in their confusion, right?
Absolutely.
Right in that midst of that. So to show or bring solutions, at what stage would you like to see that again as an employer? Is that in the cover letter? They've done the research on the website and say, hey, I noticed on your social media or on this, these are different areas that we can consider. Here's my
Yeah.
background and skills, etc. Or in the interview conversation, or both.
Both. Yes. At any
Mm,
point would be great. I think there's no wrong time, to make that suggestion. Now, your approach and how you articulate it,
right.
obviously, with um, the right tonality and, have you thought about, we don't need, somebody wagging their tail at us out of the gate, but I think that, you know, there is no wrong time to bring ideas.
Right. No one come and say, "Hey, Brittany, 21st agency. Yeah, let's change that. I think it's a little dated title for the company or the company
Yeah,
name.
right.
What about
Yeah,
this?"
yeah. But hey, listen, if that's your idea, tell me why. Now I'm
Mm.
curious, you know? So who
I would
knows?
think you're unique in that way for sure.
Yeah.
Which is phenomenal, right? I think that's a great idea. Like that's something folks can implement tomorrow. And again, that's the premise of the podcast. What can they take away from each episode and implement? And the fact that you say bring solutions, and you can, if someone can do that in
Hmm.
just their, cover letter, or initially how they communicate to the employer, and then get to that stage. I
Right.
think that is definitely a great separator. But again, to your point, it would have to be crafted in such a perfect tonality and professionalism that it sounds interesting versus offensive. Like, who is this person? Right?
Exactly
And it's
right.
like, you know what? We never thought about that. That's it's a good idea. Let's see what he or she has else to say. Get them on the phone.
Exactly right. Yeah.
Love that. Love that. I think that's a powerful tip. What would you say from a LinkedIn, right? You're on LinkedIn. What would you say from that digital real estate, how they
Hmm.
should be more polished or presented in that space as well?
Yeah, I think, speaking in social media and LinkedIn, everyone kind of wants the silver bullet. Like, okay,
Hmm.
what is the keys to the algorithm? Who has them, and how do we unlock it? And there's no secret sauce, right? I see you kind of nodding your head, already
Hmm.
sort of knowing where I'm headed here,
Yeah.
and I think that if you have defined the innermost spoke to your wheel, the way that you go and execute that on social media, whether it's, a blog post or a graphic or a quote, hopefully a combination of all of these things, right? Because sometimes I have time to read your 10-minute long blog, and sometimes I just want to, laugh at a quote. And that's okay too. So I would just say that, staying true to who you are on the platform and being consistent and being persistent. So
Mm.
just because it doesn't work the first time doesn't mean it won't work the second, third, fourth, eighth, 12th time. Um, all that to say, and I'm going to kind of talk out of both sides of my mouth here, but monitor what does work and do more of it, right? So if you
Mm.
find that people are really loving a short blog and it's getting a lot of traction, well, keep doing it, right? And don't give up on it. And but I would say, everything needs kind of a trial period. Test it, watch it, see if it's working. Don't turn it off immediately, but know that, give yourself a couple months, 3 months of trying something before, stamping it null and void and moving to the next thing, because it will take time to get your audience accustomed to seeing and expecting that from your page or your profile.
It's such a great point because it's weird. Even LinkedIn being the juggernaut business platform network. When I post ever so often, maybe a couple of months, I'll post a personal picture, whether my family or the wife or the daughters. That gets 9, 10,000 likes.
Yep.
When I post something career related,
Yep.
1,000, maybe 15. I'm like, what is going on here? I'm like, is this for business? platform or not? What are we doing? So it's
True.
strange how the audience will, maybe they're oversaturated with all the
Mhm.
coaches and all the stuff that's going on. They just, hey, oh, this is the person behind all that. This is more who they are, and that's what they want to see. So do you get a sense of that when you're looking at a client's, their, social media, and saying, hey, here's where I think you need to pivot to gain more visibility?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, people buy from people. They don't buy from logos. And I think the reason you're seeing such gravitation to, those personal images is behind the scenes content always does well. They want, consumers and fans and followers always want to feel like they're part of, um, how it was created, right? Like, show me how you came to this. And the same goes for a brand and storytelling and talking about, your ethos, your
Hmm.
values, why someone should buy from you specifically. And sometimes that has to do with the individuals that support the brand, the logo, the inspiration. So I think that as we're looking at brand LinkedIn profiles and company pages, I think sometimes, and this is like a very tactical but necessary way to prop it up, is through using your support system of staff, right? And your company page will publish things. So have people comment, have people reshare. It's the profile photo that is supporting the logo and the commentary and the credibility of these are real people that are working as part of this organization, um, and having them participate in a way that feels very authentic, that I've seen, grow a page and a brand leaps and bounds.
Hmm. So I know I referenced Gary Vee earlier, but he did say something that I've seen on several of his posts. Not sure if you follow him at all, where he said we're now in that attention getting age. I forgot the way he phrased it. It was a great phrase, but really it's just now about how many eyeballs can I get on me to do
Mhm.
what I need to do, whether I'm selling a product, a service, myself. We're now in that space where it's all about
Yes,
attention. And hopefully not from a narcissistic standpoint, but for your business or brand, right? Um,
absolutely.
so, do you agree with that focus? And again, strategies you've seen work best in the business space that we can apply as everyday individuals.
Yeah, I think this is a great point. And, love him or hate him, Gary Vee has opinions and he says them and sticks to them. So I respect that. I think, actually just last Monday, I was in Orlando speaking at the Digital Summit Series. And the topic that I spoke to with a room full of brand marketers and agencies was called Engage, Don't Interrupt, the New Era of Social Media Ads. And one of the
Mm,
primary points that I presented and discussed is the way you think about your competitors, especially in a social media feed, whether it's organic or paid content. We are so accustomed to thinking about our competitors in who is the most similar brand to us, right? And okay, well, what does their ad or what does their post look like? But the reality is, you're competing with your friend's birthday photo above your ad and um, your grandmother's anniversary photo underneath the ad.
mm,
We're competing for attention. So you got to make it good. You have to make it entertaining, whether it's a paid ad and it's informational, it's educational, it is polarizing in some way, and it makes you want to respond. It brings emotion, right? But if it's not a thumb stopping piece of content, best of luck,
mm,
because competing is not just against apples to apples or whoever the next uh, engineering firm is. It is very much so whoever's in the feed and whoever's going to grab attention first and captivate people.
Now, I think for me, as you're saying that, like IG, horrible on IG. I just I don't put enough effort into it. LinkedIn became my platform that
Yep.
my goal is to master that, and so that's where the biggest audience is. So from when it comes to that and how you're working with folks, are you
Mhm.
saying, hey, this is where you probably need to spend most of your attention, or do you need to be everywhere, depending on the goal and the vision of that client? To say, hey, I think you're based on your messaging and what you're presenting, this is the platform for you. Or again, can you splatter it across but change the messaging a bit because of the different platform?
Yeah, I mean, age old question, right? Is like, are you Microsoft and you have a budget of, 100 million dedicated to your social and content and versioning every message out so that it fits the platform and feels native and authentic, and your TikToks feel like TikToks, but your LinkedIn feels like professional baked content. The reality is, like, the majority of us do not have that bandwidth or budget. So, what is the best way to participate? For me, I always say, pick your primary platform and be specific about the content you're creating for that. And if the majority of your customers, consumers, prospects are on LinkedIn, make that your sort of first foot forward. The way we think about web design, for example, in this day and age is mobile first, right? Okay, we're going to first design it to fit your phone. And once we feel like the consumer has the best user experience on your phone, we're going to make a secondary version that appeals to desktop users. The same
Mm,
goes for social channels, right? Think about where your consumers are first and what type of content you are creating, and lead with that platform. If you have time to go version it out for other platforms, great. If you don't, push it there. It will not hurt you. It will at least create, a thread and a feed that shows you're active and you're credible, and hopefully drive back to the primary. um, but I would say that, in this day and age, there are so many ways to participate on social channels, and feeling like I have to be everywhere, I have to do everything. You don't.
mm,
You don't.
right.
Do one really well, pick the others. If you want to publish there, fine, but own the one that you're really going to own.
What's the consistent advice you would give though? So what's in your framework when you're coaching folks? What's one thing or two things that you say this is a part of every piece of it, whether it's the branding, the social media, the personal or the lifestyle branding? What's one or two elements that you say this is going consistently because it's always help? It's a home run. It works, and it's just the element that needs to be in there.
Yeah. I would say just showing up. I feel like people get paralyzed by um, sometimes creating the content, and
Hmm.
don't let, my office is so sick of hearing me say this, do not let perfect to be the opposite of done. So
Mm,
write the post, make the graphic, do the thing, show up consistently, tell your story. If it's not perfect, that's okay. Some of our best performing posts have had typos because people are like, did you see the thing? We're like, yeah,
hmm.
we're human,
Hmm.
like, we fixed it, but it's fine, everyone calm down.
Yep.
um so I think that is the way to continually win, is to show up. Don't let perfection get in the way. I think people just get paralyzed and frozen by, like, oh, I have to be on video, I have to say the right things, I have to do all the. No, you don't. Do your best, and if that's just a short caption with an image, that's okay. But letting people know that you're out there, staying top of mind, telling your brand story imperfectly will attract the right people, right? And if a typo offends them, they're probably not your person anyway, and that's okay.
From a budget standpoint, obviously you're working with companies, but what if a job seeker reached out and said, "Hey, Brandy, excuse me, Brittany, that I need some coaching on crafting my message, look, forward-facing image." Do you take on that's not, these people are not looking to be, big name people or anything. They're just, hey, I want that polished look from, from an agency, then I'll take it from here. Do you take on individuals one on one who are just looking to get, that uplift?
We don't, but I would say that Park, PARWCC, would be a very nice reference to start, which happens to be a dear client, obviously. And they're resume writers and career coaches. Last year, you and I were kind of talking offline. I spoke about how to craft your personal brand at their last conference, which is coming up in April now. It's a soft plug for our client. And so I would suggest that going there and working with somebody really dedicated to your job search would be the right way. There are obviously some crossovers, but there's some great experts in the room at their conference and that are members of their association.
Yep, looking forward to being there this year. Yep, that's and for folks who are wondering who's Park. You referenced it. It was referenced twice. It's Professional Association of Resume Writers and Career Coaches. So
Exactly.
definitely look them up. Love the folks over there. Met several of them, and yeah, it's a great organization. Definitely a high five that for sure. So we're coming close to time. I want to be mindful of your time because you are busy. What are one or two takeaways in addition to being able to bring solutions that you can share with the audience that they can implement into their journey?
I would say that, from a tactical perspective, don't be scared of AI. It's here to
Mm,
stay.
mm,
Use it, learn how to use it. If you're not already using it or learning how to use it, go find resources to learn how to use it. Um, it is not going anywhere. And so by burying your head in the sand will do no good. I would, continually suggest in finding ways. I mean, we use it in our business for brainstorms and editing and copy. It is, at least today, not the final product, but it
right.
definitely can be, a left hand or a right hand um, to helping assist in crafting like that very specific solution forward cover letter that you're going to have to write over and over if you learn how to prompt correctly. I would say that don't wait to start playing around and trying it, and don't be scared of it. It doesn't bite, like, at least not yet. So
Right.
I would definitely say, to try and start integrating that and finding ways, because it will help you level up whatever you're
Mm.
doing. And even once you get the job, right, like, it's still a tool that very, if not soon, very soon, you could be asked to use. So add it to your skill set, right?
Yeah,
Um,
I heard some. Okay, go ahead.
Fire away.
No, I heard someone say, some entrepreneur say, people think that AI is going to replace people. And he said, it's not AI that's going to replace people. What's going to replace people is people who know how to use AI. So,
That's right.
to mirror your comment, that is so true. I use it in a few tools. That's wow, such an efficient and time collapse tools that are out there. Wow,
Yes,
like wow, definitely game
exactly.
changers for sure. Definitely game changers for sure. So before we wrap up, share with folks where they can find you, business owners that are watching or listening. We'll also drop all your contact information in the show notes. Where can they connect with you, consume your content, see your work?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, LinkedIn. You can find us at the 21st Agency, or me personally, I publish, blogs and industry information from my personal profile, Brittany Ward, as well. You can find us on TikTok at the 21A. You can find us on Instagram at the 21A. And when all else fails, you can also email me, Brittany at the 21a.com.
Love it. Love it. Brittany, I so appreciate you again saying yes, taking the time to share your expertise when it comes to marketing. Because again, I think there's so many transferable skills and tools and tips from the business world that the everyday folk can use to to elevate their brand and visibility. So again, I appreciate you so much. One last question that I used to ask, and I'm gonna bring it back around in these episodes, is this the last question for you? Why do you do what you do? What keeps you motivated?
I love this question, and I'm glad you brought it back. I love helping people that is my passion. I think that the unintended consequence of being able to help business owners is also to help build an organization that we employ people who are really smart and driven and passionate and incredible humans. So not only are we helping, collectively those who are our clients and customers, but really building a team and helping impact and grow the folks who work with us too. So
Love it. Thank you so much. Follow Brittany. Follow the 21st Agency. She's going to be 21 on her birthday. So it all lines, right?
exactly. Countdown starts now.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Brittany. Hold on for me. And folks, again, it's free to subscribe. So support the podcast. Let's keep it going. And we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Orlando.